Interesting. Well, I guess today Twitch decided to be the one who's going to give me problems, and that's okay because me and Twitch don't really have that much of a relationship. But I think it's still recording. It's just not showing it. So, all right, I think we are ready to go. Hmm. All right, we are all set up now. Yeah, it only took me 1 minute past today, so I'm on time. What's up? What's up? What's up? Coach Bruce is in the studio again. We are talking about the top 10 struggles that I have identified with ADHD for men. And today we're going to be talking about social awkwardness. Let's review real quick what we've been through so far, so you can go back and check out those live streams if you're interested. So far, we've been through engaging and the boring stuff. If you're not interested in it, I know how hard it can be to engage in that stuff. And we talked about some ways to get past that. We talked about self care. Um, you know, Not taking care of yourself is going to create more stress in your life, and that is going to make your ADHD harder to manage. Stress equals more symptoms. Like that's with almost every illness, disease, disorder, anything that is negative happening in your body, it is going to be just amplified by stress, which I don't think ADHD is a negative thing in your body, but its symptoms can be. So let's get that straight right off the bat. We talked about time management, and I offered a couple of tips there that I actually think work really well because I used to be late all the time. Um, I was that guy. I was late to everything. So I have worked through that pretty well, and I would encourage you to adopt those couple of tips to help yourself once again remove some of the stress. Uh, and if you're working in a situation where you are working from someone else or for someone else, it's really important to um, put more weight on the things that you don't think are that important, because to other people, those normies, they think that those what I would think are just non-important factors mean a lot whenever it comes to working with people. So never write off something as not important without fully understanding the possible implications. Um, we talked about emotional regulation. That's a tough one for me, but we got into it. Talked about hyperfixation and how you can use it as a boon. You can use it as a boon to improve your skill set. We talked about following through and the importance of that, both for your own spirit and for those around you. Talked about masking. If you have ADHD and you don't know what masking is, you definitely need to go back and watch that episode or that stream, because yeah, it's if you don't know what it is, then there's a good chance that you're doing it, and you are on a road that is going to lead to a burnout that is almost inevitable. So check that out. And then the last thing we talked about so far was making things bigger than they are. It's just inflating the idea of things that we have to do or haven't done or we might have done, and the negativity that might surround it. Or I mean, I guess I didn't talk about this, but the delusions of grandeur you might have. There's a lot of different ways the ADHD mind wants to grow things uh, exponentially outside of reality. So yeah, we talked about that as well. But today we're talking about social awkwardness, and I know a lot of my friends and a lot of other people who know me would think that this is not something that I struggle with at all. Because I do love being around people. I love having conversations. I love meeting new people, but I definitely always feel awkward to start. Um, about this pretty in depth on my podcast, but since this is probably a different crowd than my podcast, all 10 of them, I'll go back into a little bit. In a few years ago, working as uh, a public educator for the fire department, one of my jobs was to manage a 501c3 in which we like held an event, and I was the coordinator of that event and the fundraiser for that event and manager of that event. There was a lot of moving parts for it, but um, fundraising was a big part of what I was set out to do. So I had to network, and I hadn't done that in a long time. Um, but I really enjoy networking. I really enjoy the challenge of, of persuading other people that you are a guy who can get things done. That's kind of the part I enjoyed about it. I don't want to say selling myself because I wasn't a hooker. That's definitely not what I was doing. But you have to like kind of talk yourself up. You have to be kind of loud about your accomplishments in a way that you haven't or you're not usually allowed to be without it seeming as you're arrogant. Like I'm not an arrogant person, but there are things I do well, and I like to be able to acknowledge those things and have other people be able to appreciate me for that. And that's something I was definitely lacking from the fire department. You're like not supposed to ever talk about the things that you're good at. People are just supposed to know, and it's supposed to be quiet. And if you do something great, like you're not supposed to get really any kind of a pat on the back from anybody except for like the people that you work closest with, and they treat you so poorly most of the time that a pat on the back doesn't really you don't even take it the right way because it just feels like more attacks. Anyway, so whenever I'd go to one of these networking events, like I would be going to uncharted territory where often I was the only black person in the room. And a lot of times that was because there was a lot of white people, but I also like started to run in the circle of the Hispanic Americans that are on the south side of Oklahoma City. And that was, a really, really friendly population, but I was still the only person who looked like me. And knowing that I'm already like back then I was already in my head a lot of the time talking about my lack of physical fitness, to the degree that I wanted it to be, even though back then I was actually the fittest I'd ever been and really looking back as fit as I'd ever really want to be. um, but I didn't really I guess looking back, the reason why I enjoyed it so much was because I had something to bring to the table. This 501c3 fundraiser, this charity organization I really believed in. Unlike myself, like I didn't really believe in myself the same way I believed in this charity. I knew that I could deliver the information to this charity to get people to care about this thing, to donate money, services, come to the event. Like I knew that this thing was important enough to care about. If I'd been doing it at that time, wanting people to invest in me, I would have had nowhere close to enough confidence to do that. Because, like I said, I had that negative that negative conversation loop was constantly going on in my head. Talking about all the things I couldn't do right and all the ways I'd failed, and you know, a lot of those things were being reinforced at work, so that wasn't helpful. Um, and looking back, there were some reasons why those things were being reinforced, but the culture is still not healthy. So I would get to these events and look different than everybody else, feel unworthy of the attention, have a thing that I was proud of, did feel like deserved the attention, and so I would focus on that. And as I started to navigate these situations, like I started to think back what I was taught when I was a kid, which was like just fake it till you make it, fake it till you make it. And I look back now and I tell you, nay, do not fake it till you make it. That is not the way, because that's how you end up masking. That's how you end up um, acting like other people because you just want to fit in. And as much as it may work for the time being, I definitely don't suggest that. What I would say instead is just start, like, just step, like, just take a step to the toward the conversation you want to have, and instead of pretending like you're, the most confident person in the world or whatever, you know, make a self-deprecating. No, don't say. Try to not make self-deprecating jokes. Make a vulnerable joke, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, I'm terrified to say hello to anyone, but you look very nice. So, hi, what brings you here? And so many other people are dealing with the same conversations in their minds about being self-conscious or being, feeling lonely coming to these things, that they're not, it's gonna disarm them, and it's gonna make them feel uh oh, sorry. I just got a message from my podcast dropping tomorrow morning, and the guest just asked for an early copy of the podcast. And 1 second. So, anyways, so tomorrow's podcast, if you don't know my podcast, it's Authentic on Air with Bruce Alexander. And I talk a lot about just showing up as yourself. And, what I didn't realize whenever I started that podcast is I was wanting to talk to ADHD men. I didn't realize that. And like, it still holds up. I got, like, most of my biggest like listeners, like the ones who like regularly listen, are ADHD men, because that struggle with authenticity, being ADHD, it really does have like a pretty strong parallel. So um, I think that if you haven't checked out my podcast, it's on all major podcast platforms. And as much as, like, I'm shifting more towards the ADHD dad, the podcast has a little bit more of a broad appeal at the moment. I'm thinking about kind of narrowing it a little bit more towards like ADHD dads or ADHD family. I'm not sure, but I think that it's a great listen. You should check it out. Anyways, so I was talking about getting into those social situations and moving through them in a way that allows you to just, like, you have to allow your brain to catch up to your body. And no, actually, you don't have to allow. You have to make your brain catch up to your body. That's why you just take the steps towards somebody to have a conversation. Because if you sit there and wait for your body to, or sorry, for your mind to catch up with your body, and you're in that negative thought loop cycle, it's never going to happen. There's never going to be a moment where you feel comfortable enough to start engaging in conversation. What likely is going to happen is somebody's going to engage with you, and you're going to spend the entire time still in that cycle, just adding new elements to it. Like, oh man, yeah, they're talking to me. I probably sound so stupid right now. I probably am, I'm probably not making any sense. Stuff like that, because you never cleared out of that negative thought loop. So if you just start walking towards somebody that you might talk to, and, make a right turn and talk to the closest person if you have to, but just start moving towards it. And then your brain is going to snap out of that. It's going to snap out of that loop and say, what are you doing? Like, wait, what's happening? Like, we're over here starting this conversation. Why are you moving to talk to somebody else? And it's going to pay attention to what's going on. And you are going to, by the time you get to somebody or closely thereafter, you're going to be present in the conversation. You're going to get out of your head, and you're going to be talking about the fact that you are nervous or you feel awkward, but that is not like a necessarily bad thing. So what I would say is that although it is like, talking about your awkwardness it can feel vulnerable. especially at networking events, everybody wants to make friends. Like even if, although they are business relationships, it's still just making friends. So nobody's gonna, shit on you because you feel vulnerable. They're gonna say, "Oh, and I understand that. My first time coming here, I dealt with this, and this. And hey, why don't you hang out with me?" Um, Man, I've got another microdosing message here. Like I'm super irritated that the only people coming into my lives are people trying to slang the microdosing, which, send me some free products. Maybe we could talk. No, I don't want to actually do that. But I really, I would really like to encourage people to, when you get in those situations, just start moving, just start walking towards the thing. And if it is a round table where you're just like, like having a lunch or something, I haven't really coached on this, but let's think about it. If we are kind of stuck in a seated position, how can we engage our body in a ways to where we're going to start getting out of our head? Um, this is aggressive, but maybe if you got some paper, just make a paper airplane and throw it at somebody. I'd just be like, hey, how are you doing? How's it going for you? But once again, your body is going to start, or your brain is going to start saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" It's going to snap. It's going to snap into the present, and you're going to start dealing with what's here, like what's actually present, not what are you thinking about. What are you creating in the presence? Um, I've got the same one viewer on Twitch. If you want to throw something in the comments, I could address what you're dealing with at the moment. I would love to do that. So I'm looking at the comments. So just throw something in there if you want to. And what are we looking at on Facebook? Got one view on Facebook as well. Same thing. If you are sitting out there on Facebook and you are struggling with something, throw it in the comments. And I'm not going to judge you for putting that in there. Like I am here putting myself out there because I want to help people. So I'm absolutely all about talking to people who jump in and comment on the live. But otherwise, like I'm trying to keep it pretty brief outside of that. So talking about that awkwardness and that social awkwardness. So let's take it out. Let's remove it from the work scenario. Um, I've generally been a person who, whenever I hang out with people that I would consider friends, I'm not that awkward unless like I've just had like a really long time and I actually don't feel like hanging out, which almost never happens. But when I feel like that, I do feel a little bit of awkwardness. But generally, like the way I handle that is the way I handle most things is just like straight up, like hey Drew, nice to see you, man. I love you, but I am feeling hella weird today. Like I've been just burnt out and I'm not feeling very peoply. So you have to give me a minute to like snap into it. Because generally whenever I hang out with people, it's with their kids hanging out with my kids. So it's not like I can just be like, get out. Because I would be doing a disservice to my responsibility to socialize my kids with other children. So sometimes you gotta people anyways. And I really, really want to dig into the idea that people should stop saying fake it till you make it. Because like really what happens is you fake it and you never make it and you just keep pretending to be this thing that you started faking to be, and it feels like you trick yourself into feeling like you made it, like, but you didn't. You changed where your destination was supposed to be. And most of the time that is to your detriment because it just lets you fall asleep at the wheel, thinking that you're already there when really you are so far away from where you actually wanted to go. My dog is scratching at the door, and somebody take that dog away, please. Thank you. uh Sorry, that's my dog Ghost. He's fun. Anyway, so faking it till you make it is really just the the process that guides you off the path that you're actually trying to walk. um and I just having been through that enough, having masked myself enough and deluded myself enough and separated myself from what was actually important to me for so long, I would really want to encourage anybody I coach to try to avoid anything like that because it sucks. Like the results are very, very not fun. Um, and I want to avoid that for people. Like I want to help ADHD dads, especially. I want to help them avoid the things that I've already been through. I want to the things I've navigated generally very poorly at the time, and then learn from in retrospect, and then navigate it again. Like that's why I feel like I've grown so much and gotten so much stronger is because I fucked up a lot, didn't learn from it, did it again, then started to learn from those things, and then still messed up, and then had to be tested in the things that I was learning. So like it was, on the job training. It was as I'm learning to like really lean into being myself. It's after I'd like messed up several times doing something similar. And this time I'm like, hey, let's try facing this as Bruce and see how that goes. And the results were so much more positive. That's whenever I knew I was onto something. I was like, this is something I need to share with other people because it seems really, really obvious now, but it certainly didn't before I stumbled on the power of authenticity. Like, man, it's mind blowing. So that's what I'm gonna wrap it up there tonight. Uh, in case I didn't make that very clear, my answer to social awkwardness in the home is if those people are coming over to your house and they are claiming to be your friends, why would you not be honest with them? If you're calling them your friends, especially, why would you not give them honesty? I'm like, I will, I will. Sorry, my daughter's being loud. I will acquiesce that I am much more staunch than most on my definition of a friend. Like if it's not somebody that I hang out with on the regular or talk to on the regular or like have some sort of regular routine with, I'm not going to call them a friend. Like that's going to be an associate, a colleague, an acquaintance. To me, my friends, like whenever I throw out the invite to come to dinner, they're showing up. Like that's like period, no question. Whenever I put the invite out, my friends always show up. That's what a friend is to me. Um, what sucks is I'm not the best friend on the return because I navigate a lot of issues getting out to other people's homes. But like if I don't come, I always let you know why I'm not going to come, and like I'm always vulnerable about that part. And then I also hit you with the return invitations. Like I know I couldn't come to this thing, but come to my house soon, and I'll make you dinner. I'll make it worth your while. I'm like, please don't leave me. Stay my friend. Um, anyways, so that's it for today's talk. If you are interested in learning more about what I do, go to go to my website. It is www.authenticidentitymanagement.com. You can also get my free ebook there, 7 Shocking Ways You Are Ruining Your Life by Pretending to Be Content. I'm developing all kinds of new stuff. I just developed a new course that is going to be available for free, at least initially, and I'm going to push that out. I'm putting together a package to like really, really try to help ADHD men um, lay a foundation like that. Like that's what the package I'm putting together is like. How many men can I help lay a foundation and a framework to both get and keep their life on the rails, like keep them on track to where they want to go, where they for one know where they want to go, they have defined goals, and those goals are guided by definite values and beliefs, and those things are going to help them grow so much faster. Like that's all I want to do is I want to help people grow. And if you are interested in any of that, please reach out. I'm still taking on, I think I probably should only take on one more coaching client, but I'll still take on 2 more because once again, I want to maximize the number of people I can help. So if you are an ADHD dad or an ADHD anybody or anybody who's listened to my content and you're like, damn, I wish he would coach me, hit me up. Like, let's do it. Like, let me help you. I want to spend this time helping people. And if you are really helped by me, if you'll throw a testimonial out there, so whenever I start really trying to launch my business onto the next level, I'll have that, and that would be really helpful. But the my main motivation is just to get out there, connect with people, and help them grow. So That is it for tonight. Until next time, peace, be yourself, and love yourself. Have a great night, everybody.